I need to be honest about something that happened in the Greenbrier section of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I worked for the Smokies for 14 years, mostly on the Tennessee side. I knew those mountains the way some people know their neighborhood. Every ridge, every watershed, every damn sinkhole that could swallow you if you weren't careful. This was late autumn, 2017. The tourists had thinned out. I was running a standard patrol along the Porters Creek corridor. Dispatch had reports of possible spotlighting, poachers probably, near the old trails. Illegal and dangerous in that terrain. I went in alone. Standard procedure. I'd done it 100 times. The first thing I heard was around 4:30 p.m., just before the lights started to fail. It was a distress call. Whitetail, I thought. Maybe a doe caught in deadfall. But the sound was fundamentally wrong. Too deep. And it repeated. Every 12, maybe 15 seconds. Exact intervals. Animals don't do that. When a deer's hurt, the cries are erratic, panicked. This was controlled, almost mechanical. But it was a deer sound. I'd heard enough of them to know. I stopped walking, listened. The echoes didn't match the terrain either. The basin should have softened them, but they came back sharp. Metallic almost, like the forest itself was amplifying something it shouldn't. I kept moving, radioed in that I was investigating a possible injured animal, just logging my position. That's when I saw the claw marks. Chestnut oak, maybe 10 yards off the trail. Fresh gouges, 7 feet up the trunk. Deep, 4 parallel lines. Bare, obviously, except the angle was wrong. The marks curved inward, like whatever made them had been pulling itself toward the tree, not climbing away from something. I've tracked black bears my entire career. They climb to escape, to feed, to mark. They don't claw inward. There is no reason for it. I should have turned back, but the calls kept going. Same rhythm, same tone. The Porters Creek area is tricky. The watershed cuts through a maze of sinkholes and collapsed cave mouths. You don't wander off trail unless you know what you're doing. I did, or I thought I did. I found the tracks about 20 minutes later. Bear prints, hind paws, definitely, but the spacing was off, way off. Each print was maybe 4 feet from the last, which would mean the animal was either sprinting or its torso was stretching mid-stride in a way that didn't make anatomical sense. And the forelimb impressions, they rotated inward, like the joints were bending the wrong direction. I knelt down. The soil was hard-packed, dry. You don't get deep impressions in soil like that unless the animal's got serious weight. This print was pressed down 2 inches. Then, the distress calls stopped, just like that. Total silence. I pulled my radio. Dispatch, this is Ranger Dalton. I'm about half a mile east of the Porters Creek trailhead. I've got some unusual tracks here. Requesting backup if available. Static. Then, copy Dalton. Backup's about 40 minutes out. Advise you return to the trailhead and wait. I should have listened. But the silence bothered me more than the sounds had. It felt intentional, like something had heard me key the radio and decided to stop. I started back toward the main trail. That's when the calls started again, behind me. Same rhythm, same tone. Now they were coming from the direction I'd just come from, following me. I stopped, turned. The hardwood understory was thick, but I could see movement. Low to the ground, dark, big, a bear, had to be. Except it wasn't moving like a bear. It was pacing, parallel to me, matching my speed. Bears don't stalk, not like that. If they're aggressive, they charge or they bluff. They don't follow you through the brush like a goddamn wolf. I started walking faster. The calls stayed behind me. Closer now, maybe 30 yards. My training kicked in. Make noise, make yourself big, I yelled. Hey, get out of here. Nothing. The calls stopped again. I kept moving, faster. My boots hit the trail. I wasn't far from the trailhead, maybe another quarter mile. Then I heard it, breathing, not panting, not the heavy snort of a bear. This was chuffing, low, rhythmic exhalations that sounded like someone breathing through clenched teeth. It was coming from the tree line to my left, maybe 20 yards out. I turned my head and I saw it. Silhouette, big, shaped like a black bear. But the torso, Jesus, the torso was wrong. It was concave, sunken inward, like something had hollowed out the space between its ribs and its pelvis. When it inhaled, the spine bowed outward. I could see the curve of it even in the failing light. I froze. It didn't move, just stood there, half hidden, breathing. Then it stepped forward. The joints, its shoulders, its hips, they articulated wrong, rotated inward with each step, like the limbs weren't connected the way they should be. I backed up. It followed. I don't know how long we did that. 30 seconds, a minute. Time stopped making sense. Then the ground gave way beneath me. Sinkhole. Shallow, maybe 6 feet deep, but enough to drop me hard into a limestone pocket. I hit the bottom, rolled, scrambled to my feet. The thing was at the edge looking down at me. I still can't. It wasn't a bear. The torso was completely collapsed. Hollow. The spine jutted outward in ridges, and the rib cage looked like it had been crushed inward and healed wrong. Its head was bear-shaped, sure, but the breathing, the chuffing, it sounded human, like someone trying to mimic breathing. Its forelimbs reached down toward the edge of the sinkhole, joints rotating, silent. I grabbed a dead branch near my feet and hurled it at the far side of the basin. It clattered against the limestone. The thing's head snapped toward the sound. That bought me a second. I climbed, dug my boots into the crumbling rock, grabbed roots, hauled myself up and over the edge. I didn't look back. I ran until I hit the trailhead, got in my truck, drove straight to the ranger station. I filed a report, described an injured bear exhibiting unusual aggression, possible deformity, recommended restricted access to the Porters Creek Basin. My supervisor read it. He looked at me and said it was probably seasonal behavior. Males get territorial in late autumn. Sound distortion in the basin can make things seem closer or weirder than they are. I didn't argue. 2 weeks later, I ran into an older ranger, a retired guy, used to work at the Greenbrier back in the 90s. We were at a supply depot, and I told him I'd had a weird encounter. Described it, kept it vague. He nodded, didn't look surprised. Locals call it the hollowback, he said. Seen once, maybe twice a decade. They think it's some kind of deformity, an isolated population, a genetic mutation. Whatever it is, it figures out how to lure people into the sinkholes. Mimics distress sounds, draws you in. He looked at me. You're not the first ranger to see it. You won't be the last. But the ones who do, they don't usually go back out there alone. I quit 6 weeks later. The truth is, I can't patrol alone anymore. Not in those mountains. Because the thing I saw wasn't defending territory. It wasn't scared. It wasn't injured. It was hunting. And I was the prey. I transferred to the Smokies in early summer, North Carolina side. Coming from Shenandoah, I thought I knew mountain terrain, ridge profiles, elevation behavior, how predators move through different soil types. I was wrong. The Forney Ridge area is different. Thin soil over shale bedrock, wind-exposed tree lines. At night, thermal inversions settle into the valleys and push cold air uphill, which distorts sound in ways that mess with your head. Echoes come from the wrong direction. Distances collapse. But I'd coordinated searches in worse terrain, or so I thought. The call came in just after 9 p.m. Hiker overdue on the Forney Ridge Trail, last seen near the Klingman's Dome access road. Standard protocol, 2-person grid search, headlamps, GPS tracking, vocal callouts every 50 yards. My partner was a guy named Royce. 5 years in the Smokies. Solid. We'd worked a handful of searches together since I'd started. He knew the ridges better than I did. We started the search around 10:30. The ridge was quiet, too quiet. No insects, no rustling, just wind threading through the spruce and the crunch of shale under our boots. We split the grid, 50 yards between us, moving uphill in parallel. Standard formation. That's when I saw the drag marks. They were deep, fresh, cut straight into the loose shale, heading up the slope. I stopped, knelt down. Claw marks. 4 parallel gouges, spaced wide. But the pattern was wrong. The marks were evenly spaced, like whatever made them had been walking upright and dragging something heavy with controlled, deliberate steps. Bears don't drag prey uphill. It's a waste of energy. They cache food downhill or in flat terrain where they can cover it with debris. I radioed Royce. Got drag marks here, heading up slope. Do you see anything similar? Static. Then, nothing yet. Probably a bear caching a kill. Keep moving. I didn't argue, but I knew it wasn't a bear. We kept climbing. The air got colder. The inversion was settling in, pushing uphill like a slow tide. I could feel it on my face, damp, heavy, metallic. Then I heard it, a howl, low, sub-bass. It vibrated through the trees, resonating in my chest like a speaker cone pressed against my ribs. And it was coming from uphill. That's not how sound works on a ridge at night. Inversions push sound down into the valleys. Howls should echo downward, not rise. I stopped. Royce did too. I could see his headlamp 50 yards to my left. You hear that? I radioed. Yeah. Coyote maybe. Or a dog. That wasn't a coyote. We kept moving. The howl didn't repeat. 20 minutes later, we found the hiker's pack. It was torn, straps shredded, contents scattered across the trail. And it had been dragged, straight from the trail into the underbrush, then 40 yards uphill into a clearing. I swept my headlamp across the clearing. Tracks everywhere. Not paw prints, not hooves. Bipedal impressions. Deep. The heel structure was elongated, like someone had stretched the bones out an extra 4 inches. The stride length was massive, easily 6 feet between prints. Royce came up behind me. What the hell is that? I don't know. The tracks circled the pack, over and over, like something had been pacing, waiting. I swept my light toward the ridge. The brush trembled, not wind. The movement was isolated, deliberate, responding to my light. Royce, kill your headlamp. What? Turn it off, now. We both switched off our lights. The trembling stopped. We stood there in the dark, breathing, listening. Then the howl came again, closer, maybe 100 yards uphill, and this time it was answered. From the left, then the right, then behind us. Not echoes, multiple sources. Royce turned his headlamp back on. We need to call this in, get a full team out here. I agreed, but when I reached for my radio, I heard something else. Stones, rolling downhill, not a rock slide, not random, controlled, rhythmic, like something was kicking them loose in precise intervals. I turned my light uphill. For just a second, maybe less, I saw it. Silhouette, tall, emaciated, standing upright on a shale slope so steep I could barely walk it without sliding. Then it was gone. Did you see that? I whispered. Royce didn't answer. He was staring at his GPS. We're being flanked, he said. Look at the topology. Whatever's out here is staying above us, maintaining elevation advantage. He was right. Every time we moved uphill, the sound shifted. Always higher, always ahead. We started back toward the trail. The howls followed us. Closer now, maybe 50 yards. Then I heard Royce's voice over the radio. Base, this is Unit 12. We have a possible predator encounter on Forney Ridge, requesting immediate backup. The response was garbled, static. And then something answered him, not over the radio, from the ridge. A low grunt, guttural, timed perfectly with his transmission. Royce stopped walking. It's listening to the radio. I didn't want to believe him, but the timing was too precise. Every time we transmitted, the sounds moved closer. We switched off the radios. The ridge went silent. We kept moving, faster now, boots slipping on loose shale, my headlamp beam bouncing with each step. Then Royce grabbed my arm. There, ahead of us, maybe 30 yards, the trail narrowed into a saddle, a thin ridge connecting 2 peaks. Beyond it, the terrain dropped steeply into darkness. Standing at the saddle was the thing from before, but now I could see it clearly. Gray hide, patchy fur, elongated limbs with joints that bent in ways that didn't match any primate or bear I'd ever studied. Its heel structure was massive, adapted like a climber's foot, spread wide for balance on steep terrain. It stood over 7 feet tall, emaciated, skeletal, and it was staring directly at us. I don't remember drawing my bear spray. I don't remember Royce pulling his flare gun. All I remember is the thing charging. No sound, no warning. Just a silent downhill sprint across terrain that should have been impossible to navigate at that speed. Royce tackled me sideways. We hit the ground hard. The creature collided with him. I heard the impact. I felt the ground shake. Then it dragged him into the dark. I don't know how long I stayed there. Seconds, minutes. I heard Royce screaming. Then I didn't. I pulled the flare kit from my pack, hands shaking, barely functional. I ignited 3 flares and threw them into the underbrush. The ridge caught fire. Dry shale, thin soil, wind-fed flames. It spread fast. The howling stopped. I heard something retreat, crashing uphill through the smoke, away from the light. The recovery team found me 2 hours later, sitting on the trail, watching the fire. They found Royce the next morning, what was left of him. The official report classified it as a fatal bear encounter, trauma consistent with a large predator, standard protocol. I tried to explain the tracks, the howls, the way it moved. My supervisor listened, took notes, then filed it under bear. 3 days later, I was helping with cleanup near the ridgeline. One of the Cherokee firefighters pulled me aside. "You saw the ridge walker," he said. Not a question. I didn't respond. "Old stories," he continued. "Thing that hates artificial light. Been up there longer than the park, longer than the trails. My grandfather used to say it hunted the ridges before we had names for them." He looked at me. "You did the right thing. Fire's the only thing it respects." I quit 4 weeks later. Told them I needed to be closer to family. Career change, the usual excuses. But the truth is, I can't work ridgelines anymore. Because what I saw wasn't a bear. It wasn't a known predator. It was something that evolved for terrain we barely understand. Something that uses elevation like a weapon. Something that turns our tools, our lights, our radios into bait. And it's still up there, waiting. I've worked in Monongahela for 12 years. West Virginia backcountry, unmarked sectors, karst collapse zones, valleys so deep you lose radio signal for hours at a time. I know predator signs, black bear, coyote, bobcat. I know their tracks, their scat, their territorial markers. I know how they move through terrain, how they hunt, how they feed. What I found in the autumn of 2023 didn't fit any of that. It started with a missing wildlife tracker, a guy named Hendricks. He'd been tagging deer populations in the southern perimeter, remote stuff, areas most hikers never see. His GPS pinged once from a valley near the Shavers Fork drainage, then went dark. Standard protocol. I went in alone to check the last known coordinates. The valley was wrong from the start. I noticed it maybe half a mile in. The sound disappeared, not gradually, just gone. No birds, no wind through the trees. Even my boots on the forest floor sounded muffled, like the air itself was swallowing noise. I've worked in karst terrain before. Sinkholes distort acoustics, collapsed limestone pockets create dead zones. But this was different. The silence wasn't natural. It felt deliberate. I kept moving. Hendrick's last ping was near a cluster of sinkholes, old collapse features, some of them 50 feet deep, choked with undergrowth and rotting timber. Dangerous terrain. You step wrong, you're gone. That's when I saw the first one. A bone circle, small, maybe 3 feet across. Deer vertebrae, cleanly stripped, arranged edge up in the dirt. They formed a near-perfect crescent around the edge of a shallow sinkhole. I knelt down, studied the pattern. The bones were fresh, maybe a week old. No scavenger marks, no weathering, and the arrangement was too precise. Predators don't do that. They scatter bones, they drag them, they don't arrange them. The soil inside the crescent was undisturbed. No tracks, no scat, nothing. I took a photo with my phone, moved on. Hendrick's pack was a quarter-mile deeper into the valley. It was sitting in the center of a full circle. Vertebrae, ribs, femur segments, all arranged in a continuous boundary, maybe 8 feet in diameter. The pack was in the middle, untouched. I stopped at the edge of the circle, didn't cross it. Something about the setup felt like a warning. I circled the perimeter, found tracks just outside the bone boundary, hoofed prints, deep, asymmetrical pressure distribution, like the animal had been moving low to the ground. The forelimb impressions were elongated, longer than any deer or elk I'd tracked, and the hooves were split but wrong. Too articulated, too wide. No native predator in West Virginia has hooves. I radioed dispatch, told them I'd found Hendrick's gear and some unusual predator sign, requested backup. The radio crackled, no response. Dead zone. I was alone. I marked the location on my GPS. I started back toward higher ground where I could get a signal. That's when I felt it, not heard. Felt. The air pressure changed. Subtle, like something large had moved close enough to displace the space around me. I stopped walking, turned slowly. Nothing, just trees, shadows, undergrowth. But the silence was absolute now. Not even the sound of my own breathing seemed to carry. I kept moving, faster. The bone circles started appearing more frequently, small ones, crescents and half rings scattered around collapsed sinkholes and deadfalls. Always the same clean arrangement, always marking boundaries I couldn't see. Then I saw it move, just a shadow, low to the ground, 30 yards to my left. It paused, completely still, then shifted again, silent even though it was moving through debris-thick forest floor. I turned my headlamp toward it. Nothing, just undergrowth. But I knew something was there. I backed toward a fallen oak, put my back against it, scanned the tree line. The shadow moved again, this time to my right, then behind me. It was circling. I pulled my bear spray, held it ready. The thing appeared at the edge of my light, pale, gaunt, low slung like a quadruped, but the proportions were wrong. Its forelimbs were too long, ending in split hooves that spread wide across the ground, silent, articulated, absorbing weight without sound. The head was elongated, jawline extended forward, almost canine, but the bone structure was heavier. Its hide was gray-white, patchy with thin fur that didn't quite cover the muscle beneath. It stared at me, no reflection in its eyes, just black pits. Then it stepped back into the shadows. Gone. I didn't move. Couldn't. My legs felt locked. My training, everything I knew about predator behavior, was screaming conflicting information. This wasn't a bear, wasn't a cougar, wasn't anything I had a name for. I forced myself to move, kept my light sweeping the tree line. The ground gave way beneath me. Sinkhole. Shallow, maybe 5 feet deep, but enough to drop me hard into loose dirt and limestone fragments. I scrambled to my knees, looked up. The thing was at the rim, closer now. Its forelimbs splayed wide, hooves gripping the edge of the pit. The jaw opened slightly. No sound, just the slow articulation of bone and tendon. Then it did something I still can't explain. It picked up a vertebra from the ground beside it, placed it carefully on the dirt in front of me, then stepped back, marking me. That's when I understood. The bone circles weren't scavenger behavior. They were territorial markers, boundaries, and I'd just crossed into one. I grabbed a loose chunk of limestone, threw it hard at the sinkhole rim. The impact echoed, sharp, sudden, breaking the acoustic deadness of the valley. The creature recoiled, backed away from the edge. I climbed out, didn't look back, just ran. I made it to higher ground an hour later. Got a radio signal, called in my position. They found me at the trailhead just after dawn. I filed a report, described the bone arrangements, the tracks, the encounter. My supervisor read it, looked at me like I'd been out in the woods too long. Stress response, he said. Karst valleys mess with your head. Acoustic distortion, low visibility. You probably saw a deer or a bear, and your brain filled in the rest. I didn't argue. But 3 days later, a retired wildlife biologist came by the station. Old guy, used to work the southern perimeter back in the 80s. He pulled me aside. You saw the bleacher? He said. I didn't respond. Old accounts, he continued. Goes back a long time. Valley predator. People used to warn their kids about it. Said it marked feeding zones with bone circles. Hunted anything that crossed inside. He looked at me. Nobody's seen it in decades. Most people think it's folklore. He paused. But I don't. I haven't been back to that valley. But I'm going to. I've been mapping the bone circle locations, cross-referencing GPS data with old wildlife reports. There's a pattern. I know there is. My supervisor thinks I need time off. Says I'm fixating. Maybe I am. But I know what I saw, and I need to prove it. I'm heading back next week, alone. Full documentation kit, cameras, GPS tracking, soil samples. I'll find it again. I have to. Because whatever's in that valley, it's real. It's territorial. And it's been there longer than any of us. I just need to get close enough to prove it.